Right then, Richard, chopping your way through the debts of the country. We're looking at, a little bit earlier, we were looking at schemes, initiatives and people to contact as regards to looking after your debt and getting some advice.
Yeah. The first one we were looking at was the FOS, which is the Financial Ombudsman Service.
Did it first time.
Got it there first. I've been rehearsing while we've been off air. And they're specifically there to arbitrate between consumers and banks, credit card companies, anybody who's selling or providing any kind of financial service. If you have a complaint that you don't feel that's being dealt with correctly by that financial institution, you can take it to the FOS and they will get in between the pair of you and decide who's right and who's wrong, hopefully come down on your side and make the banks take the appropriate action.
OK. Consumer Credit Counselling Service. What is it with these long, complicated names?
It's a morning of tongue twisters this morning, isn't it?
What can they help you with?
They're basically a good alternative to the paid-for debt management companies. There are plenty of debt management companies out there that charge for their service anywhere between 10 to 17%, but of course that reduces the amount that you're paying towards your debt. The CCCS is actually a charitable organisation, actually funded by most of the major banks and financial institutions, and will give you a full financial health check. They'll put together a proposal for your creditors. They'll even speak to your creditors on your behalf and make payments on your behalf. All of this is free of charge. Consequently, they are stretched at the moment, but they're certainly worth the call, and they do provide a very, very good service, and they will give you peace of mind as well.
Well, speaking of being stretched at the moment, I'm sure the National Debtline's phones are off the hook.
Yeah, this is one of my favourites, the National Debtline, along with the CCCS, because this can give you an instant win. Anybody who's feeling particularly stressed about their personal finances and needs instant help and advice, give them a quick call. They'll actually provide a trained specialist on the other end of the line. They'll talk you through your situation and give you the best possible advice.
OK. We were talking a little bit later on about how all-consuming debt can be. It's the first thing you think of in the morning, last thing before you go to bed. Every given opportunity, when you're going to buy a coffee, you're thinking, can I afford it? But it's nice to know that there are some practical tips and advice that can be done, because often it seems like you're wading through mud and you don't know where to start. The National Debtline presumably will be able to help you break it down into simple steps. Yeah,
and the key thing, you're not alone. You're not alone. There's thousands of people out there that are finding themselves in this position that they previously weren't in. There's trained professionals out there to help and advise you through these difficult times. And some of the banks are even now putting together debt management teams within their banks to help manage their customers' problems, to save them from falling through the net. The key thing is, don't do the old thing that we talked about previously in not opening the mail and not responding to requests for information. Talk to your creditors, negotiate with them. If you need help, those two particular organisations are very, very good indeed. And if you're having problems, of course, you can contact the FOS and they'll get in between and arbitrate on your behalf.
I suppose as well, they might be helpful for advice if perhaps it's gotten to a stage where you're getting red letters from people, payments are overdue and you physically can't pay them, that they would be good to go for advice on what you can actually do.
Yeah, absolutely, because of course if you schedule to make a payment, say of £200 a month against a credit card and you only have £50, people worry, so they don't even make the £50 payment, they don't make the £200 payment, then they default, then the nasty letters start coming through the post. It's quite daunting, but people like the National Debt Helpline and the CCS will talk to your creditors on your behalf, or at the very least tell you what to say and what to do.
Okay.
Will the Office of Fair Trading do the same thing?
No, the OFT are there to regulate the licences which are issued to companies such as debt recovery firms and solicitors who act on behalf of creditors. To work in that arena, you need to be licensed, you need to demonstrate that you have the necessary qualifications. And of course, if you work out of the very heavy regulation, you can lose your licence. Now, the OFT are there to protect the consumer. So once again, very similar to the FOS, but on a much more serious level from the creditor's point of view. They can revoke the licence, for example. The OFT take care of anything to do with consumer rights. So whether you've made a purchase, say for white goods, electrical goods, or even a motor vehicle, or financial product, and you feel you've been missold the product, you can go to the OFT, or if you've been bombarded with calls and letters and you think that you're being harassed, again, the OFT will step in and make sure that that stops.
Okay.
Not suggesting that these financial institutions that you've just mentioned are anything like what I'm about to say, but you're starting to see some patronising advertising where certain banks are offering debt advice, and it's almost, the simplicity of it is almost a little bit cringy.
It is a little bit cringy. I think there's a massive PR exercise going on now across the big five, and we'll talk about the big five. That's the big five banks and some of the credit card companies as well. They want to be seen to be doing the right thing. A lot of the blame for the credit crunch lies with the banks, and rightly so. There's some huge pensions knocking about out there that would help a lot of people get out of trouble. That money could be invested, for example, in training their staff within the banks to actually manage and help people through debt crises. That said, as patronising as the ads are, it's probably still worth a call into the bank to see what they can do, because the people on the other end of the phone are going to be less patronising and probably better equipped to deal with your situation. And ignoring the problem doesn't mean it'll go away. It just means it's there for another day, and it's going to be a bigger problem once it does arise again.
Okay.
Great stuff. Thanks, Richard, joining us this morning, and you'll be back again next week.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Time now for your traffic and travel report with Michelle.